good Wednesday evening, everyone. Welcome to Week 12 of the NFL and fantasy season. Once again, my name's John, here along with Sean. Sean, good evening.
Good evening, John.
How are you tonight?
I'm good.
Good. You ready for Thanksgiving tomorrow?
Of course, my favorite holiday.
Is it? Yeah, I'm ready for some turkey. Love all the side dishes as well. And then, of course, pumpkin pie for dessert. So can't wait for that. But we got 3 games tomorrow. We got Chicago and Detroit kicking it off, and then Vegas going to Dallas. And to end the evening, we have Buffalo versus the Saints. Out of those 3 games, just on paper, which one are you looking forward to the most?
I would probably say the New Orleans Buffalo game. I mean, I think that has the most possibilities of being a good game. Both teams need to have a bounce back week after last week's really bad play of defense and offense overall. The Bills, more or less, are the fact that they got absolutely embarrassed at home by the Colts. The Saints, I mean, they played a decent game on the road in Philly. They decided to try to play too late in the game, and it was too late for them to try to get the comeback going.
Yeah, before we take a deeper dive into those games, let me bring up the schedule here on the screen. Share. Then we got some more games here on Sunday. We got Carolina against Miami, Atlanta against Jacksonville, the Jets going to Houston, Philly going to New York to face the Giants. The Giants fired Jason Garrett. Did that surprise you?
No, I was kind of waiting for that. I'm probably by the end of the year, the head coach will be fired too.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure about that, but I mean, they would have to, if they do that, they'd have to fire the GM as well. I mean, he's gotten more leniency, but if they fire the GM, a new GM's not going to want to come in and have the coach that's there now.
Yeah, it's just there's a lot of question marks when even just a lot of head coaches general in the NFL right now. There's a lot of weird calls being made, like 4th down and like 30, and they're going for it in their own red end zone, and it's like the Chargers on Sunday night were making me question what they were doing at their own 30-yard line, going for it on 4th and like 3, and it's just there's some weird calls that I don't understand. I look at watching these games and I'm just like, what are these head coaches even thinking, doing? Like, why are you even putting your defense in that predicament if you don't get it? But I feel like at the end of the year, you'll see they always call it Black Monday because that's when all the coaches get fired. So could see a couple this year, depending on how the season ends up for some teams.
Actually, depending on what week, this is week 12. There's 18 weeks. Maybe about 15, week 15 or so. Maybe we'll do a video on who we think some of the coaches we think will be fired at the end of the year. And
yeah, I think
maybe some of the coaches, maybe some of the guys we think might get hired once those coaches get fired.
Yeah, it seems like the NFL anymore is going for the younger coaches. The younger it can be, the better it is. So, and if they can bring it from college, that's probably the beneficial because in college they're learning a lot more now with offenses and defenses than what they have been in the NFL. So they're bringing all of that learning to the NFL for Sundays.
Speaking of coaches that are in college, do you think Nick Saban would ever try to come back to the NFL?
No. He is made in Alabama for what his reputation has been made, and he has come out and said that he will never play or never coach again in the NFL. That he has no reason to with the reputation he's built in Alabama.
Gotcha. I didn't know he said that. But let's get back to the schedule here. We got Pittsburgh going to Cincinnati, a nice division matchup there. I don't know if that's the first time they met this year or not.
No, they met back in week 3 or week 4. That was when the Steelers were on their losing streak. And then and Ben Roethlisberger was wondering if he was going to have a starting job the following week.
I do. Now it's early. It's only Wednesday. But right now I do have Pittsburgh favored to win that game. I know last week Pittsburgh had 3 guys out on defense, Watt, Fitzpatrick, and Hayden. I want to say on defense. So I don't know if those guys will be back this week. But we got Tampa Bay going to Indy what a game for Indianapolis going into Buffalo and dominating the way they did. Now, in Sunday's stream, you talked about Taylor keeping his touchdown streak going. I believe, would he have 4 touchdowns on Sunday?
He had 5
5
touchdowns.
touchdowns, yeah. So I actually expect it to go him to get another one this week against Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay's struggling on defense since Vita Vea got hurt. So that's a big game for Tampa Bay. It's a big game for both teams, but I give the edge to Indianapolis being the home team.
Yeah. Right now, Indianapolis is firing on all cylinders, and honestly, I mean, everyone's been questioning. They said, does Jonathan Taylor deserve MVP votes at the end of the year? And everyone keeps saying no for the fact that Derrick Henry had 2K yards last year and he didn't get a single vote for MVP at the end of the year.
I don't care. That's horrendous because this just feels different than Henry's season last year. Taylor's carrying. I don't want to say carrying the team, but I mean that's exactly what he's doing at the moment.
Yeah, it's hard to say yet. I mean, we still got 6 more weeks to go in the year, but I think that he deserves to be at least in the top 3. Honestly,
I would put Kupp in that equation as well.
Yeah, I think right now Cooper Kupp's kind of the front runner, and then you have to look at Jonathan Taylor being the second there. I don't see any quarterback really right now playing on Sundays that is MVP level other than Matt Stafford, but in his past 2 weeks, he's kind of been making have a little bit more questions coming out of those games. So I think we'll start seeing in the next 2 to 3 weeks on who is the MVP front runner and who deserves it more.
Yeah, and then we got Tennessee going to New England. Tennessee with a horrible loss at home. I know this week they've released Adrian Peterson, so that didn't work out. And actually, Adrian Peterson was the only. You asked me the night before who was going to score touchdowns, and the 3 guys I gave you, Peterson was the only guy that didn't score a touchdown. I'm like, really?
Yeah, I guess they blame him for not having ability to rush in that game, but I don't know if they can really blame him. Tannehill threw a lot of points off that board. He threw, I think, 3 interceptions inside their own 30, which was field goal range for their kicker. One of them was before the half. He threw 1 ball out of bounds at the half and he got a intentional grounding that gave a 10-second runoff, ended the half for him. So he probably cost them between 15 to 20 points off the board easily with just his mistakes. So I guess Adrian Peterson was just a fault guy for that, I guess.
Yeah, and I didn't see much of the game. That game was it bad weather? It looked like it might have been raining.
Yeah, it was heavy rain, I think, like off and on all game, but Tannehill, being that he played in Miami for a few years and then has been in Tennessee for another few, he's used to bad weather with Florida rainstorms and all that. So I don't think he can blame the weather on that. I just think it was inexcusable on his part for how he was throwing because his defense, they did their part when it wasn't involving a turnover. It's just when you get the ball inside their own 10, 15-yard line, the Tennessee defense can't stop as many from people getting points. I think they only gave up 1 touchdown that belonged inside the red zone, so the rest were all field goals, I believe.
Yeah. Then we have the Chargers going in the Denver for another division matchup here. Going into last week, I knew all the teams were within a game of each other. Are the standings still pretty tight there?
Kansas City's in the lead. I believe they are tied with or a half game up on Chargers. And then I think it's a game and a half back to Broncos and then 2 games back or a game and a half back to Las Vegas, depending how their games go this weekend.
Gotcha. Then the game I'm looking forward to on Sunday, the Rams going into Green Bay. That could be a good matchup there. What's your early? Have you taken a look at that game yet? And what do you think?
I think that could be another defense heavyweight kind of game. The Chiefs and Cowboys game that we expected to be a big blow game on Sunday didn't turn out to be. It was more defense oriented with sacks and turnovers. So I think this could be another one where that the Rams got to go into Green Bay knowing they have to win to keep their chance at a division. Not only that, but being a 1 seed. They lose this game, it's going to be hard to come back since they lost Arizona already to come back from 2 games down. So this game could come down to being the 1 seed, I know, because if Green Bay wins, then they're a game behind Arizona for the 1 seed. But if Green Bay loses, they're 2 games behind for the 1 seed and having the rights over Arizona for the seed. So they could come down to that.
Yeah, let me look here at the. I'm on the AFC here. I want the NFC. Yeah, right now Arizona does lead. I was actually surprised Arizona was able to win that game going into Seattle, especially without Hopkins and Murray. What'd you think of that?
Seattle's just a really bad team, and I think this is right now the way that Russell Wilson wants to get out of there right now, because I just don't think he's playing to his fullest. Kind of like Jared Goff in Detroit. We know he's better. We know he can do better. It's just, is he playing to his fullest capability of wanting to have that top tier offense that he's been used to? So it's just that they're just playing bad. The defense is horrible. The offense isn't getting anything going. I think they've scored, I think it was 10 points in the past two games. So they're just not playing good right now. And honestly, I mean, I just think that they're probably going to go into a rebuild almost. They got so much going on with next few years with the drafts and draft picks, and their team's getting older. Ever since they made their Super Bowl runs, it's kind of been, after that team fell apart, it's kind of been downhill from there.
Yeah, yep, I agree with you there. Let's go back to this week's schedule. Oops. I didn't lose you, did I?
No.
Because my internet closed down, so that was weird. Let's see here. That was we got another late game on Sunday. Minnesota going to San Francisco. This is another good matchup, especially for playoff seedings. As a Vikings fan, what do you think? First off, what do you think of your win over Green Bay, and then what do you think of the team going into San Francisco, who's actually doing pretty good right now?
I was texting you during the whole game, and I kept saying Green Bay was going to win on the final drive, and if that turnover didn't get turned back over there in the under 2-minute warning, it would have been Green Bay winning that game 34-31. I kind of was in shock at how they played. The offense played really great. It's the defense, but the defense didn't play bad. It was just the turnovers and or not the turnovers, but like the penalties, and that could have stopped a couple of scores. And then late in that game in the fourth quarter, when they tied the game up, it was a questionable call because Green Bay Rodgers had called a timeout, and then the refs, all the Minnesota players stopped when they saw it, and then they hiked the ball, and then the refs never gave him a timeout. So it was one of those, like, they had evidence to say that he called it and turned around, but they said that they didn't grant the timeout. So, but I mean, Minnesota played great. They got another tough game this week. I mean, San Francisco's been playing really good. They beat the Rams. They just destroyed Jacksonville on Sunday with their defense. So I think it's going to come down to is the defense and whose defense can step up and put their offense in good scoring range. But like I texted you on Sunday and I was talking to you, I said Justin Jefferson is a beast, and by far for a second-year guy, I think he's top 5 wide receiver in the league.
Yeah, I agree with you there on Jefferson. So, yeah, just looking at the standings there, both Minnesota and San Francisco are at 5-5. But it says Minnesota wins tiebreak over New Orleans and San Francisco based on win percentage and conference games. So there's still seven games to go, but so this would go a long way, not just for the playoffs, but if any tiebreakers are needed, if they can get this win.
Yeah, for the fact that if we beat San Francisco, we beat them, and then we beat Carolina both at 5. They'd both be 5 and 6. And I believe we play New Orleans later in the year, if I'm not mistaken, on the schedule. So it could come down to that. So it would help. And then we still have to play Chicago twice yet. And we have to play Detroit one more time in Green Bay. So it'll be an interesting rest of the year. I know we played a lot of tough games. We've held over a 7-point lead in every game this year and a double digit in over half the games. So I think it comes down to that, is if they can get rolling and they can get a lead, they need to keep the lead. I think right now, though, that on Sundays is the problem is getting the ball running wise. They got to be able to run the ball a little bit more, and they're struggling right now running.
So let's see. You guys play San Francisco. Then you go to Detroit, so that should be a win. Then you're home for Pittsburgh. That's a Thursday night game, it looks like.
Yeah.
Then you're at Chicago, with who knows what's going to happen in Chicago. Home for the Rams.
Which quarterback?
That'll be a big matchup versus the Rams. Hopefully we can get Payo time back on for that one to talk a little Rams Vikings.
Yeah, and then we travel to Green Bay.
Oh, go ahead.
Travel to Green Bay. Yeah, for Sunday Night Football, and then back at home to end the year in Chicago. So the last 2 to 3 weeks there could be crucial, depending on how the next 2 or 3 weeks play out. If we can beat San Francisco and beat a mediocre Pittsburgh team, it could come down to it as needing to beat either LA or Green Bay, depending on how games turn out.
Yeah, I agree with you there as well. So that'll be interesting to see.
It's crazy to think, if you look at the Minnesota schedule, they could end up being an undefeated team the way if they played every game this year and how close each game has been.
Let's see here. Week 1 lost in overtime. Week 2 lost 34-33
because of a missed field goal at the end of the game.
Seattle. Beat Seattle.
And then we lost to Cleveland late in that game. And then we won the next 2 games, which were nail biters. Lost to Dallas on the last drive. Lost to Baltimore on the last drive.
And you guys had a big lead in that Baltimore game.
Yeah, it was a 17-point second half lead, and then we beat the Chargers and beat Green Bay. So the energy level is high in Minnesota. I could say that one. It's just, it comes down to can the team operate and keep their energy level going each game, or are they gonna prevail and show that they're not as good as what we thought?
So looking at it, you guys were 1-3, and you're now 5-5. So you're 4-2 over your last 6 games. Getting things turned around at the right time here.
Yeah, and all of our losses have been to division-leading teams this year, shockingly.
Yeah. Yep. So wow. But then Sunday night, let's go back to the standings. We have Cleveland and Baltimore. I was surprised Baltimore won on Sunday.
Yeah, that last drive, I mean, Chicago's defense just let their team down. They went down, they scored, they got them the lead, and the defense they fell apart there in the fourth there late, under 2 minutes to go. Penalty, I think, gave them a big chunk change of yardage. And from there, once you're over the 50, they've proven you're in Justin Tucker range for the game. So you kind of, at that point, you got to hope that you have enough timeouts to try to save yourself, and they just didn't have enough timeouts to save themselves.
Yeah, I don't know why this isn't loading right now. Going back to the standings, but and then we end the week with Seattle going to Washington. Seattle's tough to read, and Washington's playing pretty well right now. As I said this on Sunday, as a Jets fan, I hope Seattle loses every game because we have their first round pick. Right now, I believe the Jets would have the 2nd pick and the 6th pick in the first round next year. So any Seattle loss is going to help us out.
And this is another one of those weeks that the NFL should have stepped in and did some flexing. The Green Bay game should have definitely been a Sunday night game, I think. And I know starting next week, they actually flexed in a game already. They flexed the Sunday Night Football game. They flexed in Kansas City and Denver over Pittsburgh, and I think it was Baltimore next week. And then I know in week 16 they already shifted 2 games from Sunday to Saturday that are going to involve some playoff teams. I think it's Las Vegas playing Cleveland, and I think it's New England playing Denver, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. I think it was those 2 games, or it might have been I think it might have been New England versus Indianapolis. I think they changed some playoff possibility teams around to give them better primetime games and to get some reviews going up, because people turn in when they're good games, and like they're not going to be blowouts like it was last Thursday where it was 25-0. So
Right.
I think that's what the NFL is trying to stop, is having these kind of snooze fest kind of games. And I think they're going to finally start changing things around where you have different teams on primetime games and not the same team over and over and the same bad team over and over.
Yeah, taking a quick look here at the AFC standings. Where is Cleveland? Oh, there they are right there.
They're down. They're down outside the playoffs right now.
10 at 6-5, but they're only a half game. Oh, they haven't had their bye yet, and they're a half game out. So half game out. But then if they could somehow win this game against Baltimore,
They would be a division.
They'd only be a half game out of the division lead.
Yeah, they'd be a half game out with their bye week to go yet. Right. And if you look at it, Buffalo only being a 7 seed, 2 weeks ago they were a 1 seed. So that whole playoffs can change a lot. I mean, look at New England. New England wasn't even in the playoff race 2 or 3 weeks ago, and now they're tied with being a one. Technically, they're a 3 seed, but
right.
A lot of weeks left to go. They could end up being a 1 seed even, because
and they haven't
the teams that play ahead of them
had their bye yet. So let's see. Tennessee's got 3 losses on the year, and I know 2 of them are to the Jets and the Texans.
Jets, Texans, and I think they lost week 1 to Arizona.
Yeah, there it is, 38-13. So they got blown out that week.
They played. Tannehill played as bad there in week 1 as he did this past week against Houston at home. They were both at home too.
Wow, not good.
Yeah, 2 of their losses coming at home has not helped them.
Let's see here. And then who do they got? Then they have Jacksonville at Pittsburgh. That'll be a tough matchup. Home for the 49ers. That'll be a tough matchup. Dolphins seem to have turned it around.
Yeah, and the 49ers game is a short turnaround from the Steelers. They play Thursday Night Football.
Oh, actually, if you look at it, they play 3 games in 11 days. Yeah,
they play. What? They play a lot there in a short season, or the short scheduling with Christmas and all that being on a Saturday. They had a Thursday night game.
So, all right. Let's talk. I don't know why this is going crazy here. Let's talk about the first game tomorrow. The Bears and the Lions. I know Goff's questionable.
No, it's they already announced that Tim Boyle versus Andy Dalton.
Oh, they did?
Yeah, they said that it's the battle of the backup quarterbacks tomorrow. So I know Jared Goff, I think they said is questionable, but I think they downgraded him to doubtful.
Oh, okay.
So this could be the chance that Detroit has a chance to win tomorrow if Andy Dalton can play like old Andy Dalton and not have a good game, or if he comes out firing like he did late in the third quarter there, like he did against Baltimore's defense, he could end up having a good game.
Yeah. But either one of those quarterbacks, let's go position by position instead of team by team. Neither one of those guys worth playing in a fantasy league, unless I don't know, unless
you got a 2 quarterback league and you have no one to pick up. I would not trust either of them tomorrow.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have either one of them in the top 30. Dalton's 27, so definitely not. Even if you're in a 2-team league, a 12-team league, and you play 2 quarterbacks, that's only 24 quarterbacks.
Yeah, I wouldn't even trust. You wouldn't trust any of them.
Yeah. Let's jump over to the running backs. Montgomery's healthy. He was hurt earlier in the year. Is that right?
Yeah, he had a knee injury.
Yeah, because I have him 11th this week. He's 42nd on the year, so I didn't take a look at that. But Detroit is ranked 30th against fantasy running backs. So definitely get Montgomery into your lineups tomorrow. What do you think of Montgomery and Swift this week?
I think it's worthy of a start. Nick Chubb just ran right through their defense last week, and any team that's playing Detroit right now is having the ability to run the ball pretty easily and get big carries right away. So I would start anyone that's running against them right now.
Yeah, jumping over to wide receivers in that game. Mooney, who's actually I remember in our draft for our league, it's a dynasty league. You kept telling me you wanted to bid on that guy late to get him. So he's 30th on the year, but 18th this week. And I don't like anybody on Detroit wide receiver wise, especially with the quarterback situation. But what do you think of Mooney this week? And is there anybody else that you would be playing?
I like Marquise Goodwin. He's had a good back-to-back weeks coming off of. I think he had 120 yards last week on like 6 catches, and I think it was like 8 targets, and he had a touchdown. So with Allen Robinson I think he's doubtful tomorrow with a knee injury. Being that it was a short rest week and they have a longer week to rest him up, I don't think you'd see him play in kind of a game that Chicago should win. So I would expect them to not use him tomorrow and just roll with Mooney and Goodwin and have their other guys being a backup. I also like Cole Kmet. I know last week he only had 1 catch, but he is a good check down tight end to like get you the short yardage if they need one, sort of thing. He's a bigger guy, so he's able to get the ball over the defenders, or if he has to go up for one in the end zone in a corner, he's good at getting that at the back of the end zone. So I would look at it for that aspect of them, for being Chicago being down players, that he could be worthy of being a starter in some leagues, depending on how big of what your other tight end position would look like.
Yeah, and I like Cole Kmet this week as well. Dalton throwing him the ball, I think he'll know how to get the tight end involved. But Hawkinson, I have him ranked 9th this week. He is 5th on the year, but Chicago is number 7 against tight ends. Would you be playing him this week with the quarterback situation?
No, not as much. The only person on Detroit that is worthy of starting this week is DeAndre Swift. He's their pretty much all American. He does whatever you need him to do besides throw the ball. I think last week it was his 6th game on the year of 100 yards rushing, and I think he almost had 100 yards receiving as well. I think he's been averaging like 150 yards right now a game overall for the past 3 or 4 weeks. So I think right now he's the all-star of the team. And unless Chicago could stop the run, which they're having some issues with since Khalil Mack's injury and him being out for the season, that I don't know if they'll be able to stop him as much. For Detroit, this is a big game for them tomorrow. It's their Thanksgiving Day game at home, the yearly one. And being on primetime TV, this could be the game that they try to step up and prove that they can get a win. And it could, if Detroit were to go out and win tomorrow, it'd probably almost end Chicago's playoff hopes, just because this would be a really bad loss for them.
I'm going to look it up on FanDuel to see what the line is. I actually, even though the projections, my projections say Chicago will win this game, I like Detroit at home on Thanksgiving. They always get up for that game. I know the quarterback situation isn't great, but having somebody like Swift who could carry the load.
Yeah, I think Chicago's favorite, but I don't think it's by much. I think it's gone down a lot since the injuries to Fields and Robinson, and then once Goff went down, I think with that backup quarterback situation, actually 3rd string quarterback in Detroit, that it's kind of one of those. They're not going to trust much to throw the ball. Right, kind of run the ball as much as you can with Swift and Williams, and then throw on when one needed, so it doesn't result in turnovers.
Let me go to NFL here. Right now, Chicago is favored by 3 on the road. I might take Detroit plus the 3. What do you think?
I think Detroit's worthy. I think tomorrow they could win. They're the worst winless team possible that has played every game like they could win every game. I think every game this year, every game almost this year, besides the Eagles game, I think has been within one score or been within one score for most of the game. I mean, you think about it, they lost Minnesota, they lost at Baltimore in the late seconds. Last week against Cleveland, they had a chance, and the defense couldn't stop them on Nick Chubb running. So, and then there's been a couple of other weeks in between that they have just been playing. They played really good at Pittsburgh. They had a chance with the field goal kicking. It's just the defense and the fact that they can't have a kicker there that makes the kicks. That's what's been hurting Detroit. But I think, like I said, they're the worst winless team possible. I think this team's actually better than their winless season that they had 0-17. It's just they can't catch a break late in the fourth quarter.
I agree with you there. But what about getting back to the game? What about kickers? It doesn't look like either one of these guys is worth starting. Defenses are actually ranked pretty high this week. I have Chicago as a 7th ranked defense and Detroit 11th ranked.
Yeah, I would trust Chicago's more just for the fact that they're going against a second career starting quarterback. And I think he had 3 turnovers last week against Cleveland. So I think he was sacked a couple of times as well. So he might get a few turnovers out of them.
Yeah, I agree with you there. Anything else on this game before we talk about the Raiders Cowboys?
I would say let's talk about some Raiders Cowboys and get some interest going.
Yeah, let's get this going here. We got I had the standings up before, but I don't have them here. We got the quarterbacks. We got Carr, who's 11th this week, 16th on the season, going up against Prescott, who's 5th this week and 12th on the year. I know Prescott had a horrible game last week. I believe he only had like 4 fantasy points, depending on how your league scores. But very bad week.
Yeah, turnovers, fumbles, sacks, everything was just they had nothing going their way, and they couldn't run the ball at all against the Kansas City defense.
Yeah, but both guys. What do you think? Both guys worth putting in your lineup this week?
Dak for sure. For Derek Carr, it's depending on who your quarterback situation is. If you have like a Patrick Mahomes on a bye, then you might want to throw someone in like that. But Derek Carr is a really risky person to start. He's either been really on every game or he's been really off on his bad games. So it's kind of one of those you got to hope he's on when you have him in your lineup. I've started him once in one of my other leagues, and I couldn't drop him fast enough on Tuesday morning because it's just he's so inconsistent. It's just hard to want to keep him going. If they get a lead, it's kind of more you can trust him. But if they're falling behind, it's just he's not reliable with his weapons that he has on his offense, which he has a lot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he does. I mean, look, you got Jacobs, Renfro. I like Brian Edwards a lot. They got Deshaun Jackson, Darren Waller on offense. So I don't know what's up with that. But if you look at the defensive matchups, should be a good day for the quarterbacks. Dallas ranks 19th against quarterbacks, giving up a lot of points there, and Vegas ranks 16th. So both of these guys should be able to move the ball. But like you said, with Carr, it will depend on turnovers. I do have Carr at 294 yards and just about 2 touchdowns. So anything else on the quarterbacks before we jump to the running backs?
No, I mean, for the running backs, I'd keep an eye on with Zeke. I know that they said he's questionable for the game. I know he got it rolled over on his ankle pretty badly in the Kansas City game, and from there, I think he missed like a full quarter and a half before he got really a touch and went upfield. So I would keep an eye on that. I wouldn't start him if you don't need to, kind of thing. I mean, Tony Pollard, he came into last week's game, and I think he had almost like 75, 80 yards of scrimmage yards. So I would watch and see it, depending how much they're going to use Zeke. if they get ahead, they might just keep Pollard out there on the field. With the Raiders situation, Josh Jacobs, he's not been doing what he did last year and the year before, and how he's been performing this year. I know when they get in the red zone, it's kind of been throw the ball to Darren Waller or Renfro. So he hasn't been able to get as many points and touchdowns as he's been used to. But he's due for a bigger game than what he's been having. I know that he just needs to get some momentum going. So being that primetime game, he could possibly get some kind of energy going and might get the Raiders offensive line rolling. They'll want to do better blocks against a pretty good pass rush on the Cowboys.
Yeah, we do have a question here. Madden Tang, start Ayuk, Mooney, or Gallup. I did send it back in the chat asking if it was a PPR league. He hasn't responded. But looking at those three guys, Sean, I assume he's only getting to pick one of those three. Who would you? I without taking a deeper dive into it. And he says yes, it is a PPR league. I like Mooney out of those guys. What do you say?
I like Gallup more. They're going to be without Amari Cooper again for the second week because of COVID, and I know that CeeDee Lamb is being ruled out most likely tomorrow afternoon because of concussion protocol. I don't know if it's more concussion, or I know he slammed his head last week off the field in the second quarter there before half, and they ruled him out right away. And they said because of that, I think it was a neck injury sort of thing. So they might take the time for the extra week, knowing that they have better players. I would go with Gallup. He's coming back from injury, and he's been getting the targets a lot from Dak. It's just he's got to come down with the receptions when he gets those targets, so he doesn't get Dak to not trust him on big situations.
Let me go back to the Detroit game. Right, because Mooney's in that game, right? Mooney's in that game. We have him at 12. Actually, let me just go to this here. That's running backs. Let's see who we have projected at the highest. Even though you do have to factor in, like you just said, you have to factor in, who's not going to be sitting or who's going to be sitting and stuff like that. But let me take a look here at Ayuk. Go ahead. It sounded like you were going to say something.
Yeah, Ayuk's really risky. He's a real risky player to start with Deebo Samuel there in San Francisco, so I wouldn't go out of my way to want to start someone that I wouldn't trust as much in my lineup.
Ayuk, I have that on the screen here. Ayuk, I do have it 12.2 points, 4 catches for about 53 yards, 4 touchdowns. Now, Minnesota is 29th against fantasy wide receivers, and Ayuk put up. I have a new column here. I just started doing this last week. How many points they scored last week? We do have it set up for. I have it set up for PPR. So he did have 21.5 points last week in a.
He had a touchdown last week, I think, in the second quarter, early in the second quarter, and he had a pretty decent game. It's a lot of risk in that league, and especially for a Thursday game, it's risking Mooney or Gallup. I would go more Gallup for the fact of if Zeke's not in the game, Dallas will be throwing the ball a lot more, sort of like they did earlier on in the year when they couldn't rush the ball as well. Zeke, if it wasn't for all the touchdowns he has this year, I don't know if he would be a top running back as much as he's been. He hasn't been getting the big yard games. So I would trust Gallup more than Mooney or Ayuk, just for the fact also I'm Mooney with Andy Dalton, how much have they played together and everything. So you got to look at it from that aspect where Gallup's been in with Dak for a few years, so he's more trustworthy.
But actually looking, I know for quarterbacks we said the defense were about middle of the pack, but I'm looking here and Gallup has a tough matchup. Vegas is 5th against wide receivers, so they don't give up many. They don't give up many points. So I would actually look for a bigger game from the running backs. Yeah, even if Zeke's hurt. I just lost the other Pollard. I would have Pollard catch the ball out of the backfield as well. I know Schultz has been a big part of the offense as well. So I see where you're coming from.
Yeah, I trust Gallup more just because he knows the offense more and he's played with the quarterback more. And
That's true.
against Detroit, I mean, if Detroit can lock down a cornerback with a wide receiver, and if they're going to go after anyone, they're going to target Mooney because he's the biggest threat. So you could see them run the ball a lot more or throw to someone else.
That's true. So, Madden, thanks for the question. Hopefully, we were able to help you out there a little bit. But let's go back to the Raiders. The Raiders game. Any more on the wide receiver, Sean? Before we look at the tight ends.
No, I mean Hunter Renfrow is a pretty good person to start too. If you have the opportunity to have him in your lineup and you want to start him, he's been getting the targets and the receptions. He's the lone guy in Las Vegas' receiving core that he can trust and be trustworthy. Bryan Edwards, I think 2 of the last 3 weeks he hasn't had a single target or reception. So I would trust Renfrow if any receiver on Vegas' team, where for Dallas, Gallup or Wilson would be my 2 guys I would trust. And then jumping down to the tight end position, both these guys, if you have either of them, are got to be a must start. Mm-hmm. Dalton Schultz without CeeDee Lamb and without Cooper, he could have a big game. And Darren Waller is Darren Waller. He's going to get you 10 targets a game. How many balls is he going to catch? Probably at least 4 to 5. And you have that upside of a really high upside of a touchdown, because if he gets an open space, he's pretty good at running down the field and getting missing tackles and trucking somebody over.
And fantasy-wise, both these defenses give up a lot of points to tight ends. Dallas is 24th and Vegas is 30th. So yeah, like you just said, these guys can put up some good numbers this week.
Mm-hmm.
Looking at the kickers real quick. Carlson's not ranked very well on the year, but Zerline's in the top 10, and I have number 1 this week. And Vegas gives up a lot of points to kickers. Dallas is going to be able to move the ball, no doubt. So would you, if you got Zerline, definitely start him. But what do you think of Carlson?
He's a great kicker for Vegas. He is. It's just this year they've had that play mentality of let's go for it over kicking it, and I think that's hurt him. And he's also missed a few kicks that made them really question it. And there's been a couple of weeks where Vegas just doesn't score a lot, so it comes down to he's not really having the opportunity to kick. So that could be why he's ranked so low. I know he's a really reliable kicker. I've had him in a few leagues throughout the year, off and on. It's just, if you got to go with anyone in that game, I'd go Greg Zuerlein. I mean, he's more reliable, but with kicking anymore, you could have the worst kicker in the league kick you 6 field goals and be enough points for you. So it's hard to produce a kicker. I said a couple weeks ago, Young Ho Koo on the Falcons is like he's money, and last week on Thursday Night Football, he missed 2 field goals. So yep. It's just one of those. You got to hope that your kicker's on that game.
Yeah, especially if you're in a league like ours. I was worried for a little bit because I do have Butker, and he missed a field goal in the game Sunday, and I'm like, no. But I was able to pull out a win. So anything else on this game? I would say no to either defense.
No, you don't.
Dallas is ranked 4th on the year, but I don't like this matchup. I think the Raiders are going to be able to move the ball and score some points this week.
Yeah, I wouldn't trust either defense right now this week, as Vegas can score 30, or they could give you up 2 pick sixes. So, and Dallas is the same way. Their defense could give up a lot, or they could help you out a lot. So, I wouldn't trust either of them this week.
And the last game of the day tomorrow is Buffalo going to the Saints. The Saints are playing well. What do you think of this? Buffalo gets blown out at home. Now they have a tough road trip. The Saints, I don't want to say they're always tough at home, but over the last few years they've been really tough. Since Peyton's been there, they've been really tough at home.
Yeah, and I like Allen this week, especially since they're playing on the road and are coming back from a big loss. And normally on primetime games, Josh Allen somehow seems a way to show up and be that good quarterback. He did it earlier this year against Kansas City. He had a good game against Tennessee. The defense just let them down and let them back into the game. But I like Buffalo in this game a lot. Without Alvin Kamara on New Orleans side being ruled out, it's going to be a hard up-road battle for New Orleans to be able to run the ball with old man Mark Ingram. So it's just, I don't know if you could trust him enough to be reliable enough in the game tomorrow on a primetime stage for him to step up and be that lead running back again like he always was.
Yeah, I don't like any of the Saints running backs either this week, especially with Kamara not playing. But it's a tough matchup for them anyway. Buffalo being ninth against fantasy running backs, and actually the Saints are number one. I know it doesn't seem like the Bills use running backs, but I mean, they don't have a fantasy running back in the top 30, so none of these guys are worth playing this week. How about jumping down to wide receivers? Besides Diggs, is there anybody you would be using tomorrow?
Maybe in a deep league, you start Beasley if he starts, or Sanders, depending if Beasley's out. But I wouldn't trust anyone other than Diggs. Diggs actually has been getting on lately with the touchdown receptions. I think he has 3 touchdown receptions in the last 2 weeks. So he's finally starting to step up. I know he doesn't want to get beat by his brother in touchdown receptions on Dallas defense. So I think that he's trying to outplay his brother and show that I can have more touchdowns than you. So could be some brotherly rivalry going on there.
How about on the Saints? Any of the wide receivers worth playing this week?
Traquan Smith is the only one I like. He's getting the targets from Trevor Siemian. It's just he hasn't found the end zone. That's the only downside I would have with that matchup. Other than that, Deontay Harris and Marquez Callaway have both gotten the targets. It's just they're having trouble coming down with the ball. Ty Montgomery, he's probably going to use more as a running back this week over a wide receiver role without Kamara being there. He'll be the backup to Ingram. So I wouldn't trust any of them. And then looking at the tight end position, the only person I would want to start would be Dawson Knox. Coming back from injury last week or 2 weeks ago, he didn't really play much. And then this past week, I know he had almost 100 yards receptions. So I would say he's worthy of starting and playing pretty good.
It is a tough matchup. The Saints are good on defense, so this could be a low scoring affair. But they're only ninth against fantasy tight ends. But yeah, Dawson Knox is definitely he's 10th on the year, even though he missed a couple of weeks, and he's still in the top 10 for tight end. So definitely worth playing. How about none of the tight ends from the Saints?
No,
right?
I wouldn't trust any of them. I don't. Juwan Johnson's the only one, and I think he only had a good couple of games early on in the year when Jameis Winston was there, and since then he hasn't really been reliable enough to want to place in a starting lineup.
And how about the kickers here? I don't like. Looks like Brett Maher's kicking for the Saints, but Tyler Bass. The Saints do give up a lot of points. It looks like to kickers, ranking 22nd in the league. So
yeah, you got to start Bass regardless. He's too trustworthy of a kicker. I mean, yeah, he had a bad game this past week. He missed a couple of field goals, but with the wind situation and it being rainy up there in Buffalo for that game, it's just you can't put it all on him for every little thing. But no matter what, you kind of got to put him in a starting lineup regardless and trust him.
How about either of these defenses? I don't like the Saints. They are 7th on the year. I don't like this matchup though. And same thing for the Bills.
No,
second on the year, but 15th this week. So not very good matchups this week.
No doubt. I wouldn't trust either of them playing defense. If you had to start a defense, I would trust Buffalo more just because New Orleans does turn the ball over a lot and they're going to be forcing a lot without being able to have the reliable running game that they're used to. But they've kind of gotten used to not having Kamara. This will be the 3rd game in a row without him. And I know he just signed his contract in the offseason, so it's big for Kamara not being out there when your team needs you right now, especially if they lose this game. I think they would be 5-7 on the year. So if they lose this game, it's almost no doubt playoffs could be out of the picture. So if you think about it, would they really rely on playing him every week anymore?
Yeah, if they lose this game, they'll be 5-6. So, like I said, I don't know.
The division would almost be out of reach, and then they'd have to pass a couple of teams on their way for the wild card spot. And if Kamara can come back healthy, then yeah, you want to use him. But if Kamara's out next week or this week and next week, then it's almost you risk his injury the rest of the year, and possibility of like people like Saquon Barkley or other players like Odell Beckham last year and all that, where if you rush them back, those injuries make it 10 times worse if you tear something worse like an ACL.
Yeah. Anything else on this game?
No. I just think that this game here is going to come down to kind of like I said with Indianapolis Buffalo last week. Turnovers are going to win this game. If people have proven if you pressure Josh Allen, he's not been good under the pressure. So if you put a lot of pressure on him, are you going to get a few turnovers? I know last week Josh Allen threw, I think it was 4 interceptions, and I think one got called back by a penalty. So they've had a lot of bad turnovers, and if he has another bad game, it could really affect how the momentum that Buffalo had rolling going up there.
Yeah, I just looked. Josh Allen averages 24 points a week on the year, but last week only had 18.2, so well below his average.
But a lot of those points were in garbage time. I think he had a passing touchdown late in the fourth quarter with like a minute and a half to go. So it kind of helped the turnover ratio, and then he ran it in for a 2-point conversion. So that helped out a little bit, but he's not been playing up to par there for what he's used to.
And looking at some of the quarterbacks here, I know Russell Wilson's coming back from that broken finger. Do you think that finger's still bothering him?
Yeah, and
he only had 8.5 points this week.
Yeah, he played in a cold Green Bay snowy game on Sunday night 2 weeks ago, and in this past week it was like a rainy, cold day up in Seattle, and he's traveling now to Washington, so he's going from cold to more cold. So,
and I think we're getting some rain and snow on Sunday and Monday, so there could be some bad weather for that game as well.
Yeah, it's just I don't know. I think his time in Seattle is coming to an end. I think that's where he's going to start. The bridge is kind of crumbling now, and I think it's almost time for him to find a new home. And there's a couple teams out there that could use him, and it could be like another Matt Stafford, Jared Goff offseason where you see a big name quarterback find a new home.
I was just going to say, what if they swap? What if Seattle and Green Bay swapped? I mean, there'd be other stuff involved in the trade, but Wilson and Rodgers. I know Rodgers wants out of Green Bay.
I think Rodgers, if he had to pick anywhere to go, I know he wants to play either like San Francisco or a team that has a good team going, where he's not going to want to go to Seattle, where Seattle has given up the most sacks in the past few years. So if I had to look at Russell Wilson going anywhere, and I think of being trade possible happening, I could see it being in Vegas. I think with Derek Carr, their defense is up and coming in Vegas, and the offense isn't as bad. They just need to stay out of criminal issues.
So on our 3 games tomorrow, I know we highlighted those, went over the rest of the schedule, but do you have any wild or predictions for tomorrow's 3 games?
I think the home teams could win all 3 games tomorrow. I really do. I think there's a possibility for Detroit to have the upset early on. Dallas, I think, could roll Vegas, but Dallas has proven in the past few years on Thanksgiving they don't play good. I think last year they got destroyed by Washington if I'm not mistaken, on Thanksgiving.
Yeah,
so
they've lost 2 in a row on Thanksgiving. I don't have the scores, but it was Washington and Buffalo. They've lost the last 2 years.
Last year was to Washington. I remember the defense had like 2 or 3 turnovers, and one of them was a defensive touchdown, and they had a few forced fumbles and all that. And then I think Sunday night the whatever they call that stadium down there now. It used to be the Mercedes Stadium. Now I think it's called some other stadium for the Saints. I think that if they get the home crowd rocking on a Sunday night football game, technically Thursday night, but they call it Sunday, NBC there, that they get the crowd into it, I think it could affect Buffalo. Buffalo has proven with Tennessee, even Kansas City last year in the playoffs, that when it gets loud, if the Saints can get a lead and make Buffalo have to come from behind, it could be a struggle game for Sam Darnold, Josh Allen, and Buffalo.
Yeah, I was looking because Dallas and Detroit play every Thanksgiving. I was looking a little bit at Detroit. Detroit hasn't won on Thanksgiving since 2016. So I think that changes tomorrow. Anything else on tomorrow? There was a little bit breaking news about the city of St. Louis and the LA Rams. Did you hear that before we came live?
Yeah, they settled their settlement. I think it was like a $750 million settlement or something for name change.
It was like about $790. Now I don't think the LA Rams have to pay all that. I believe all the owners, because they approved the move, I believe all the owners have to pay for some of that move, I believe.
Yeah, which isn't too much for the fact that they just built a few million dollar stadium there, probably $1 billion stadium actually, in LA for them and the Chargers. So technically, they're not really losing money for the fact that they got two home teams and they're making money every weekend. And you can almost guarantee you might have the possibility of having two home games in the playoffs at the same stadium in one weekend even. And they host a Super Bowl in a few weeks as well.
Yeah, so that's crazy. You know what's weird about that stadium? It's when the Rams are the home team.
The Rams have the home stadium, and when whoever plays the Chargers, you are the home team.
Right. I don't understand that.
Because there is no such thing as a Charger fan. I have not met one San Diego, LA, whatever Charger fan you want to call it. I've never met one in my life. So I don't know if it's because
that is weird. I
it's
agree
just
with you.
they've never had really a big fan base, I guess. They've never really had good teams till Philip Rivers came along, and I think the only reason why Philip Rivers made the team so good is because he had so many kids on the field to catch the ball for him. So I don't know, but I just think that you got to look at it as the Chargers fan base isn't as big as what they used to, and I think that's why they share the stadium with the Rams, knowing that they're not going to make the money to be their home team.
There was a meme I saw. It said something about Tom Brady has as many Super Bowl rings as
he said he'll retire.
Rivers has kids, but Philip Rivers said, "I didn't have to cheat."
Yeah, and have to cheat. They never had to cheat for one.
So that was funny. Anything you're looking besides we went over tomorrow's games, but anything you're looking forward to, either player or team wise, on Sunday?
I think Sunday you got a lot of decent matchups. I think there's a lot of games that could decide a lot of playoff seeding. So that's where it's going to come down to is what kind of results happen and what kind of games does it affect matchups overall. The Packers Rams game, the Chargers, and the Broncos, Titans, Patriots, almost those three games right there. Even for Indianapolis and the Bucs, Indianapolis can go in there and beat the Bucs at home. And Tennessee were to lose to New England, that 5-game lead Tennessee had 2 weeks ago would be down to, I think, a 2.5-game lead or a 3-game lead. They had a 5-game lead a few weeks ago, and Tennessee hasn't been able to win the last few weeks, and Indy's been on a good roll. So I think Indy's finally getting that momentum going. And then with the Chargers, it's a big game for the fact that if they lose to Denver at home or on the road in Denver, it could affect the fact of them going for the division with the Chiefs. The Chiefs would gain half a game on them in the division already. So, and then you got the Packers and the Rams. They're battling for the 1 seed, where the Packers own the tiebreaker over the Cardinals, but the Rams don't. So it could be that.
Yeah, I was just gonna go look at the AFC West standings. Denver's in last place, but they're 5-5, tied with the Raiders.
Yeah, they win. If you win on Sunday against the Chargers, they technically, if the Raiders lose, they would be a 2 seed in that division.
Wow.
They would go from 4th to 2nd there and be 1 game out of the division lead. And I think they still play Kansas City twice yet this year.
Who?
The Broncos.
Oh, the Broncos. Yeah, let's take a look. Take a look at that. So we are getting close to. I know that what we're in week 12, so there's 7 weeks left, right?
Yes.
So we are starting to look at playoff seedings and let's see here, Denver. Oh, then they play the Chiefs next week, in Kansas City. What's that? 5. That'll be the Sunday night game. Oh no, you said they flexed that out, right?
Yeah, they flexed it to Sunday night. It's a primetime game now.
Night. Gotcha. So that'll be a good matchup. But let's see. And the last game of the year is Broncos Chiefs. So like you said, if they can beat the Chargers, they play the Chargers again.
Yeah, it's a lot of big division games for them the remaining of the year. I mean, they go to Detroit there, so they have a break game, but then they go back on against they play tough Bengals, a tough Raiders team that's a division, and then they finish the year out with the 3 straight division games. So this is a big game for them. They lose this game here against the Chargers, having the chance at a division is almost over.
Yeah, agreed. So that's crazy. But let's go back to Sundays. Let's go back to this week's schedule. So yeah, I'm actually looking forward to it. My Jets are playing Houston this week. We're getting Zach Wilson back, so it'll be interesting to see. Since the Jets moved their offensive coordinator up to the booth, they have been able to put up some points and actually are now. I'd have to look at the updated since last week. They were up to. They went from last when they put them in the booth. They were up to 22nd in offense, and I believe they were in the top 10 in passing.
Yeah, the Jets have been playing pretty good recently, and I mean they're playing I don't even know what we can call the Texans right now, because are they a bad team or a good team? When Tyrod Taylor is at quarterback, they seem to have been a good team this year, and when he's not, they're pretty much the laughingstock below the Detroit Lions. So I kind of think that if the Jets can win this game, it would keep growing some momentum for if Zach Wilson being back. But it also could be a tough game on the road against Houston. Houston being back at home, that they might get the fans into it there, and what fans that are there into it, and kind of might pull off a upset win kind of thing. But it's hard to say it's an upset when it's 2 teams with a losing record.
So, yep. But who knows? I mean, in one way, I don't want to win because I'd rather have. I always want my team to win, but after the season, I want the better draft pick.
Yeah, but a lot of teams have proven in the past few years, the better draft pick, the worst person they draft. So you might have the 10th best pick, and you could pick the best player out there.
That's true. I mean, look at Pittsburgh drafted later in the draft this past year and ended up with Harris and Pat Freiermuth. So
yeah, and they also, you look back, I think a few years ago, Lamar Jackson went pick 32. Mm-hmm. This guy called Tom Brady went pick 199.
Who?
Yeah, I don't know. this one guy. Even like Dak Prescott, he went after a few picks, and Mac Jones, I think he was the 4th quarterback taken, and he's the best quarterback in the draft this year, and by far a long shot better than everyone else.
But even looking even further back than that, I believe a guy like Russell Wilson was like a 3rd round pick.
Yeah, and Nick Chubb and Dalvin Cook both were 2nd round.
Yeah,
and they were in the same draft as a couple others. Austin Eckler went undrafted. So draft picks have proven that you don't have to have top picks, that as long as you have that good scout going out there every week and scouting certain players, that right now you got to stop looking at the SEC, the Big Ten as that schools that you want to scout. Go out and scout the other schools that are like ACC, some of the lower schools like that aren't the big name schools and ranked as high, because those are the people that are producing. Jonathan Taylor, he came out of Wisconsin,
right?
And look at what he's doing. I mean, Alabama does produce guys like Derrick Henry and all that are, you need two people to tackle, or else you're on the next meme for Derrick Henry in front of him being a blocker. But it's just, you got to start helping and looking at other schools and producing people that are in the lower name schools, because they have proven that they have been able to produce these good players and players that are playing good in some teams, and helping them be better teams overall than what everyone thought they would be.
Yeah, absolutely. Anything else before we go?
No, I mean, I just think that I just want everyone to have a good Thanksgiving and try not to fall asleep during a 12:30 game, but hopefully the games get better throughout. But as for all we know, the 12:30 game could be the best game all day, because it's two quarterbacks that no one expected playing on Thanksgiving, and sometimes those are the best matchups when they're people that we didn't expect to play good, and they play good.
Yeah, I agree. But guys, make sure you get your lineups in. There are 3 games tomorrow, and Arizona and Kansas City are on byes this week. So make sure, if you do have those guys, make sure you take them out of your lineups. Now we usually live stream Thursday nights. Next week we'll be back Thursday night at 7:00. But this coming Sunday we'll be on at 12 noon. I'll be on. Sean, will you be joining me again?
Yeah, I'll be on Sunday of all times.
Yeah. All right. Sounds good. Guys, enjoy your Thanksgiving. Spend some time with family and loved ones. Don't eat too much. Get your lineups in. Enjoy some football. And we'll see you on Sunday.
All righty. Well, see everybody on Sunday at 12:00.